Big winter storm, and notice we do have advisories, winter storm warnings. Much of Montana is covered in those, but they also spread into North Dakota and down towards places like Utah and Nevada. Look at our totals. Big swath here of 5 to 8, and then we have a decent swath of 12 to 18 in this color purple, right? That's pretty solid, and 8 to 12, while some of us could get up to 2 feet of snow. So let's have a look at when we typically see our first 3-inch snowfall. I mean, a lot of these places get it mid-November to late November. So we're a little early, though not as early as August, right, and September. So we're not the earliest, but we're also definitely above average. Colder air is in place today. When you get moisture over that, you know what that means. That means that you're going to get snow. It continues into tomorrow. Teens in Great Falls, down to the 30s, even 40s here into Scottsbluff. And all of this energy, here is the big spin in the atmosphere. Look at this thing swinging in, and also that jet coming around and bringing in that moisture with it as well. And so it's all going to come together and snow out. It started today, and it's going to just intensify through the day today and into tomorrow. Right now, it's pretty brutal out there with our temperatures into the teens. I mean, it's just like, it's too soon, right? We want winter, but we didn't need to jump that deep into the snowbank, if you will. So through the day today, it's just going to continue bringing snow. Montana really gets the thick of it. Jackson, all the way up really into northern Minnesota, we're going to see some of it. It's going to rotate through as we head into tomorrow afternoon and start to clear out as we head into our Fridays. But we don't get like a huge break. We just have more weather that's continuing to happen. So there's your snowfall totals, which are pretty impressive. Bismarck to Minot, I tell you, Highway 83 could be rough. 94 could be rough as well. And don't forget, there's going to be some stronger winds with this too, so that could blow some of the snow around. As we look at the details, Bismarck, we go from rain, then switch over to snow. So you always have to worry about maybe a little bit of that, water freezing because you have those cooler temperatures. So it's something that we will keep a very close eye on. But by Friday, we're all going to be digging out of this system. So Reynolds, we've got the cold side, but then we have also a very warm side for us. An airplane, and show you where we are going to see some issues today. And we are going to see potentially some problems in San Francisco. I feel like we get that a lot. We will see that threat for storms into the Midwest. That could be problematic as well. And right now, no delays here at places like JFK. We'll be good here at JFK, but there could be some issues into Chicago, down into Kansas and Texas as well. So let's go forecasting here and show you what we are going to be dealing with. And overall, we are going to see a lot of moisture fueling the thunderstorms. Remember, some of this moisture that we've been dealing with is what's left of Hurricane Norma that came into Mexico, and we just saw that moisture stream northbound. So it's going to be a little bit rough for us here, especially into West Texas for the morning hours where you saw those thunderstorms. And as we look at our Dallas-Fort Worth camera, it's good if you've taken off this morning, but it could get a little risky as we get later in the day and on into the evening. That's when we could see some bigger slowdowns. And of course, Jordan, all the snow here is going to we've just begun with this, so the roads are going to get a lot worse.
Yeah, unfortunately.
It's Wednesday, October 25th at America's Morning Headquarters. It's a mild and rainy morning from the cornfields of Illinois to the wheat fields of Kansas and beyond. It's much needed rain for America's parched breadbasket, where drought has intensified after the long, hot summer of 2023. With this rain comes the significant flood threat, especially for the southern plains. And one of the reasons, Reynolds, is we have still that moisture from what was Hurricane Norma. So we're adding that tropical twist to it down there.
Oh, that's right.
Well, when you combine the land and ocean temperatures for June, July, and August, this 3-month period was the hottest on record globally, a trend that continued right into fall. September 2023 is now the hottest September on record, dating all the way back to 1850. Let's break it down. We saw the greatest departure from average on record in September, a staggering 2.6 degrees Fahrenheit. This increase is alarming because not only is heat the #1 weather-related killer, it can also stress an already vulnerable infrastructure. With rising water temperatures, the Antarctic sea ice extent hit record lows this winter. This matters because the decline can affect the global ocean currents, nutrient distribution, and even the amount of sunlight that reflects back off the ice and into space. All of this heat also causes evaporation and drier ground, which leads to wildfires spreading more easily. Despite a quieter than normal U.S. wildfire season, exposure to wildfire smoke in 2023 reached record levels. In fact, the average person in the country has breathed in more wildfire smoke this year than in the past 17 years. Inhaling this smoke can lead to more respiratory and cardiovascular problems. But it doesn't stop there. We've experienced the warmest year to date on record, and NOAA says there's a 99.5% chance that 2023 will stay in the top spot at year's end. In the near term, we have the same vibe. The heat will dominate the central and eastern part of the country through the end of the week. Jordan, overall, people tend to favor warmer temperatures, but the heat could lead to dire consequences.
Yep.
Looking forward to the video that's going to be coming out of this area, especially right in and around Acapulco, and also the way that this was coming in, pushing that water up as well. Category 5 landfall in the middle of the night, which is also not good. Winds at 165 miles an hour. That is utterly devastating. The strongest storm on record to make landfall on Mexico's Pacific coast, rapidly intensified, 80 miles an hour in just 12 hours. That is outrageous. That breaks Patricia's 12-hour rapid intensification of 75 miles an hour in the eastern north. I mean, that's mind-blowing. It's mind-blowing to have had that intensify so quickly. Right now, it is still a powerful hurricane, giving us hurricane-force winds and also very heavy rain that could cause flash flooding, mudslides. You see, it's not as intact, but it is still. We're missing that eye, but I'll tell you what, this is pouring out, and there are still really strong winds with it. It will start to degrade because as it goes over land, you get friction, and then it starts to slow down. But as it slows down, notice it doesn't go very far. So I am really concerned about flash flooding that could happen here because it's just going to slow down. There is still the potential for rain to fall through Friday. I think we could see higher amounts than that. And the storm surge along the coast, we hope that everyone is away from the coast. Damaging hurricane-force winds continue to spread inland over Mexico. And then we have that urban flooding. Mudslides also could be a huge risk for us here with the higher terrain in southwestern Mexico. Another system just off Central America, 60% chance of this developing as we head over the next 7 days as this goes westbound. We're still dealing with Tammy, which is now a hurricane. I mean, this thing is all spread out, but right there in that core, you see that eye, winds at 100 miles an hour, moving northeast at 10. And there is that eye just coming together. I'm surprised because this thing has just been such a mess, I feel like, right? It's going to loop around towards Bermuda, kind of hang out over there. So I hope you don't have any plans to go to Bermuda as we go into the weekend early next week, because it's going to be pretty harsh if you can even get into Bermuda with the winds. And then eventually what happens? Well, it probably degrade or get pulled away by our front. So there's your storm right there going over Bermuda, and then it just kind of meanders around Jordan and eventually gets pulled out.
Well, I want to let everybody know what
atmosphere is a little, I think, clunky is the best word to use, because look at everything that we have going on. This is a lot. So I want to break it down for you. First of all, we have a big system coming in from the Pacific Northwest. I'll show you that in a minute. This is going to cause a big snowstorm. But we also have energy that's going to be swinging through basically the plains and coming up towards the Midwest. These two systems don't really merge, but they're really close to each other. And again, it just is like super clunky in the atmosphere. What does that all translate to? Snowy or rainy weather for you. That's all you really need to know, or stormy weather too. So today, Nebraska, Iowa, Missouri, Kansas, there's the threat for storms. And notice some of our hail, 2.5 inch, 2 1/4, that will cause damage. And we had the messy weather from Minnesota all the way to Michigan. It really lined up right where we were expecting it to. And that's where the rain lined up as well. We need it so badly, so we'll take this. But I know it was a lot for some of you in just the past 24 hours to see 3, 5+ inches of rain. Overall, again, clunky atmosphere. There's a lot going on. You can see energy coming from the west. You see that energy coming up from the south, shooting right into the Midwest. And all of this means rain and thunderstorms. And that's all that really matters to you, right? Unless you're a meteorologist like us and you're trying to figure it out and understand how the atmosphere works. Zooming in, we have had flash flooding already this morning here into Kansas along I-35. And sadly, I think we could see more flash flooding because we will see several rounds of rain. Light stuff here into the Midwest. But if you focus in on Kansas, look at it just going right over the same areas over and over and over again. This is all the way through the evening. So the fact that we're already seeing flash flooding means we could see some more. And that is going to extend also up into the Midwest, Mankato, Eau Claire, right on the border of Wisconsin and Minnesota through tomorrow. And then through Friday, we'll see that flash flood threat extend also into Michigan for us here. So again, with the clunkiness of the atmosphere, we have our first system coming through. Then we have our second system. You see the one bringing the snow. That's system number 2 coming through basically on Friday. Then we have another system coming through. So we don't really get a break. You can take a deep breath, let it out, and then you're going to get hit again by another storm. So we're in a very active pattern for us here, 1 to 2, even 2 to 3 inches of rain, but it is really dry, and so we could really use it here, Reynolds.
Yes, indeed. We're going to see.
Here are a look at the advisories. We have them from the West Coast all the way into the plains and down towards the Four Corners as well. Overall, we have a big swath of 5 to 8 inches, and I would say a pretty decent swath of 8 to 12. And then, of course, some of us could see 12, maybe even 24 inches of snow. When do we typically see our first 3-inch snowfall? Well, usually it's not till mid-late November, maybe even into December. So we're a little ahead of schedule, not super ahead, but we're a little ahead by a couple weeks here. But look at this. You can actually get it in August. Great Falls, Montana had 3 inches or more on August 23rd one year. That is like the facepalm, emoji. Are you kidding me with that? Today, temperatures are nice and cold, and so you throw moisture into that. Tomorrow, that colder air expands. That means that you're going to see snow. So I was talking about earlier the system coming in from the Pacific Northwest. There it is right there. I was showing you that pretty graphic right there, that dip in the jet stream. There is that low pressure. And of course, you have that jet coming in and bringing in all this moisture here and energy into places like Montana, which is where we have the snow right now. So we've got the lift in the atmosphere. You've got the cold air. You've got the moisture. Boy, oh boy. In the teens, right? That's a little too soon for me. I mean, we jumped right into it here, and it's just going to expand from there. So as we go through the day today, snow will stretch all the way into Minnesota. Tomorrow, it drops a little bit farther south. Yellowstone's going to be coated beautifully. Through Thursday afternoon into evening, we still see it. But by Friday, this thing is starting to pull out. Take a deep breath, in through your nose, out through your mouth, because then we get another system coming. We'll talk about that later. It's an active pattern. So overall, we're going to see big time snow for us here. 94 northbound, even south of that. It'll kind of straddle the highway for us here. Reynolds first starting as rain in Bismarck and then changing over to snow. Minot is cold enough for snow the whole time.
Goodness, Stephanie, we're going to go from falling snow.
Next on America's Morning Headquarters. Last month was it. It's time to go traveling here on America's Morning Headquarters. So we're going to bring in the plane. Of course, we're at the Weather Channel Airport here, and we do have the potential for some delays here in San Francisco. And I think later in the day, with the storms that are continuing to fire up, we could see some bigger issues, really from the Midwest down into the southern plains. That's where we'll see the clouds, the showers, and also the stormy weather. So watch out, Chicago, Wichita, and also into Dallas too. Maybe you're not flying, maybe you're driving, maybe you're riding your bike. Some people that do that right across the country.
How about a unicycle?
A unicycle? Have you ever been on one?
No, I fall off.
But you've tried it.
Of course.
I don't know if I've ever tried one. There's like a way you get up on it and then keep going. Good abs, I think, is what you need for the unicycle. I'll tell you what, Mother Nature is really pouring it out here. There's a lot of moisture in the atmosphere, so our dew point temperatures in the 60s, we're wringing it all out into western Texas. That's where it's rough for us this morning. So crossing over 20, 10, even up towards I-35, you're going to run into some of those storms. Dallas, I think the morning flights are okay, but depending on exactly where those thunderstorms set up, could make or break you as we head into the afternoon hours, because if it's in the flight path, then sometimes they can change the runway, or you got to slow down and go around it. So we'll see where that all piles up. We do have a low pressure. You can see right there in the upper levels spinning ashore, icing right now into Billings while it's snow for Butte and really much of Montana. The roads here, they've already been slippery. We've already seen issues. There was a FedEx truck that spun out on one of the roads. So make sure you give yourself plenty of braking distance. As you get snowy, you need about 500 feet in between cars going 50 miles an hour. Jordan.
Well, how about this treat from...
It is Wednesday, October 25th at America's Morning headquarters, and it is a mild, rainy morning. From the cornfields of Illinois to the wheat fields of Kansas and beyond, it is much needed rain for America's parched breadbasket, where drought has intensified after a long, hot summer of 2023. This rain comes with a significant flood threat, especially for the southern plains, due in part to what was left of Hurricane Norma that made landfall in Mexico, Reynolds. That's adding some tropical juice into the southern plains.
It's all connected. There's no doubt.
Well, when you combine the land and ocean temperatures for June, July, and August, this 3-month period was the hottest on record globally, a trend that continued right into fall. September 2023 is now the hottest September on record, dating all the way back to 1850. Let's break it down. We saw the greatest departure from average on record in September, a staggering 2.6 degrees Fahrenheit. This increase is alarming because not only is heat the #1 weather-related killer, it can also stress an already vulnerable infrastructure. With rising water temperatures, the Antarctic sea ice extent hit record lows this winter. This matters because the decline can affect the global ocean currents, nutrient distribution, and even the amount of sunlight that reflects back off the ice and into space. All of this heat also causes evaporation and drier ground, which leads to wildfires spreading more easily. Despite a quieter than normal U.S. wildfire season, exposure to wildfire smoke in 2023 reached record levels. In fact, the average person in the country has breathed in more wildfire smoke this year than in the past 17 years. Inhaling the smoke can lead to more respiratory and cardiovascular problems. But it doesn't stop there. We've experienced the warmest year to date on record, and NOAA says there's a 99.5% chance that 2023 will stay in the top spot at year's end. If that occurs, then we will have the hottest 10 years on record, all in just the last decade. In the near term, we have the same vibe. The heat will dominate the central and eastern part of the country through the end of the week. Jordan, overall, people tend to favor warmer temperatures, but the heat could lead to dire consequences.
Oh,
Ferocious. It was devastating. It came in overnight. And as the sun rises, we are going to see just devastating video, I'm sure, coming out of there. It made landfall at 2:25, and sadly, Acapulco went right through, it looks like, that eye wall, looking at the satellite here. If not still seeing some of the strongest winds. They were up to 165 miles an hour. Just absolutely devastating. And the rapidly intensified 80 miles an hour in 12 hours, which is jaw-dropping. That's a new record, by the way, breaking Patricia's record that was 75 miles an hour in 12 hours in 2015. I don't like that we broke a record that was just set in 2015. That's not a good sign. The warm oceans are one of the reasons that this is happening. We are at a Category 2 for us here. Winds at 110 miles an hour, still very strong winds inland, still a lot of rain. Look at the rain still coming into Acapulco. We've reached out to a woman here in Acapulco who is a meteorology student and was here on vacation and waiting to hear back from her. But obviously, I'm sure phones are down. There's no power anymore. So just hope everyone's okay there. We are going to see it move inland, and it will continue to fall apart. Will still bring very heavy rainfall. I think we could see a lot of rain out of this. This is showing us 3 to 5 inches in some spots, but I think we could squeeze out more. And this has just been absolutely devastating. Flash flooding is still going to be a threat as we go through the day today. Another system off the Central American coast, 60% chance of developing as it heads westbound for us. And then, of course, we have Hurricane Tammy that we're looking at. That eye developing looks more like a hurricane than it did yesterday. Yesterday, it looked like a mid-latitude system, though this thing does look like, I feel like a little extratropical with the wingspan of it. But there's your eye right now. It is going to make its way towards Bermuda and then kind of lingers here over the weekend into Bermuda, so it could be quite messy for us. And then, Jordan, after that, it kind of like dissipates and finally gets tangled up in some other weather.
Well, guess
we have two systems kind of coming together. The first one is bringing a low pressure into the northwest. This is going to bring us a lot of snow. But we also have what was left of Hurricane Norma, the tropical moisture from that coming into Texas and Oklahoma, and a piece of energy down here that's going to move north. Now, the two of these, they don't really combine. They come really close together. And so it just makes for a clunky mess when you're looking at the atmosphere and you're forecasting. What it means for you is that we're going to see rain, clouds, snow, and the threat for some stronger thunderstorms. Today, we'll see it from Nebraska to Kansas, Iowa, on into Missouri. There's all the hail. We saw 2¼ to 2½ inch size hail. That's damaging hail for us. And we saw rainfall. I know this is a lot in a short amount of time, but we really need it. It is so dry in this part of the world. We'll show you that in just a minute. So we just showed you graphically that jet, subtropical jet coming up. There it is. You can see it there. And then, of course, we have our northern branch that's coming in here. And we'll talk about that northern branch and the snow in just a minute. We want to focus in on all the moisture that this subtropical jet is slinging into the Midwest. And Jordan was saying, yes, there's that flooding he was mentioning. We've got it here for us into Kansas. And I worry about the fact that we're seeing flash flooding now, and then we're going to see more rain on top of this. And so overall today, we're not really going to get a break. Notice into Kansas, it's just going to be hour after hour of showers right in the same area. So that really could cause significant flooding, and we're already seeing that this morning with our flash flood warnings, which means that flash flooding is imminent or it's occurring. It's not just in the south. Through tomorrow morning, Minneapolis, Mankato, all the way over into Eau Claire, Wisconsin, Rice Lake, we have the possibility of some flooding, and that extends into Friday morning from Wisconsin over Lake Michigan into the mitten of Michigan. So here's what Thursday looks like. This is still, that first system coming through, and then we get our next system coming through. Then we get a break, and then look at this. We have yet another. I mean, it's just going to be nonstop. But you see how messy they all are, kind of like near each other, but not exactly the same system. 1 to 2 inches, 2 to 3. This is through Sunday. Much needed because we are seeing severe to extreme drought, Reynolds, here throughout the plains in the Midwest.
Okay, yeah, shocking.
It's really kind of just getting started, not only in Helena, but for all of us here. Advisories posted from the northern plains down towards Utah, where we could see a lot of snow. There's a big swath of 5 to 8 inches and a pretty decent swath of 8 to 12. Some of us could see up to 24 inches when all is said and done. And this is early for this time of year. I mean, listen, it's not August, September early, but usually we get our first 3-inch snowfall in mid-November, even late November into Bismarck. So we're a little ahead of schedule, but at least we're not breaking records and seeing it in August. What do you need for snow? Cold air. Look what we've got. It is going to expand and deepen as we head into tomorrow. Throw moisture on top of that, and you get it. So earlier I was showing you that subtropical jet bringing that moisture up into the Midwest. This is the northern branch, and you can see the upper level low spinning here, and you have the jet coming around like this. What's it doing? Tossing moisture. That's what this white and green is. And some stronger winds right over that cold air. So that's why we have all the snow coming down right now in Montana, and it will continue to fall and it will continue to expand as we go through time. It is cold. Look at Cut Bank at 10. Oh, cut right through you. Helena, Great Falls in the teens. Billings, we're seeing some ice here, so do be careful with that. Through the day, watch that snow go south. It spreads east. We just see more of it. And we are going to see Pocatello maybe switching over to a little snow, and it wraps through Wyoming and then into Cedar Rapids Pier. You're going to change over. And finally, on Friday, we'll start to clear out for us. There'll be some gusty winds with this, too, so it could be blowing it around. Otherwise, we've got that double-digit snowfall for us here, straddling the I-94 corridor up towards Minot. And a look at the timing. Notice Bismarck's going to start off as a little bit of rain, so be really careful none of that freezes, and then you get the snow on top of it. But Minot, we're so cold, we're going to stay in the snow the entire time. Reynolds.
Okay, hey, Steph, let's check out
America's morning headquarters.
Not at all.
Oh. Does anyone else like that feeling when you're that mushy thing?
When you drop to try to find candy in the candy bowl? Is that what you're talking about?
When you're doing the pumpkin.
Oh.
Our line producer Kay says it's weird, but
I kind of do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm weird, Kate says it's a red flag, our line for that's fine. If that's my red flag, then you're
That's
doing
your red
pretty
flag.
good, right? That I like feeling that. Okay, so let's have a look at where we could have delays. San Francisco, and I think later in the day, with all the storms that we're seeing in the Midwest and the South, we could have bigger problems in places like Dallas, up towards Chicago. We could have some issues here. Same into Wichita as well. Let's have a look at the roads, because we're not always flying. In fact, most people travel via the roads, and it is going to be soupy out there. Even if you're in the Houston, Dallas area, you want to roll the windows down. It just might be too humid this morning for that. And then, of course, you have to keep the windows rolled up with the storms here into western Texas, all the way down towards the Big Bend. We will see the showers stretching from I-20, I-10, all the way up even to I-35. Kansas could have some flooding today, so we do have to watch out for that. Thunderstorms firing up maybe later in Dallas, and so if you have an early flight, you should be good to go. And then it all just depends on where exactly the thunderstorms set up. That could cause the delays. Is it right over the airport? Then you have problems. If it's in the path where they take off, then you could have issues too. But it just all depends where the thunderstorms set up. And then, of course, Jordan, we're going to have issues with the snow and the ice in Montana.
Yeah, we know that Mother...
It is Wednesday, October 25th at America's Morning headquarters. It is a mild but rainy morning from the cornfields of Illinois to the wheat fields of Kansas and beyond. It is much needed rain for America's parched breadbasket, where drought has intensified after the long, hot summer of 2023. With this rain, though, does come the threat for significant flooding, especially for the southern plains, because we have a juicier atmosphere, Reynolds, here, due in part to what was left of Hurricane Norma that came in from Mexico.
You are so right. It is.
It comes to mind when thinking of the prime time to grow veggies and show off your pristine yard, but the work doesn't have to stop. The work, I should say, doesn't stop when the seasons change.
Fall gardening is a big deal, too. For tips on preparing your yard for the cold weather, we've got landscape expert Chris Lambton joining us this morning to talk all things outdoors. All right, Chris, so current warm temps that we've had could have some of us fooled. It's been so nice, but we know that chilly air is on the way. So what do we need to do now before that frost potentially comes in?
Yeah, it has been unseasonably warm. I mean, I still have tomatoes in my garden.
You always hear like, oh, put plastic or blankets.
Go give it a hug.
You know, what's really the best thing to put over them?
So the best thing for your garden is...
So that is obviously very helpful. How can we maintain thriving gardens through the winter, though? Because some of the, you know, especially with this El Nino pattern, some of us might be getting a colder winter than we're typically used to seeing in areas that aren't used to seeing it, you know, that cold.
Yeah, so you can actually still...
That was fascinating, and you answered all my follow-up questions I kept having while you were going through your talk there. You know, it's growing up in Florida, and it might be too soon to ask you this, but a lot of times, you know, with like the orange crops, they actually will put water on them to freeze them and encase the oranges.
You're right.
To save them. Is that something we should be doing in our garden, and what even fruits and vegetables do you do that with?
So yeah, if you want to water...
That warms them. Yeah, I thought it insulated them, but it's the evaporation process. Interesting, Chris.
So if you plant it now, it keeps all the vampires away. Plant the garlic now. Halloween's right around the corner. Yes. Landscape expert Chris Lambton, thank you so much for the tips. Best of the best. I didn't realize that water trick.
Chris. Yeah,
like thinking about watering it before the cold weather comes. Keep it. Anyway.
Rainfall here, which happened at 2:25 in the morning near Acapulco. Just tremendous surge with this onshore push of water as well, and pressure down to 923 millibars. Now, strongest storm on record to make landfall. We got that rapidly intensified 80 miles an hour in just 12 hours. That is jaw-dropping. That is also a new record, breaking Patricia's record of 12-hour rapid intensification. It went 75 miles an hour in just 12 hours. Just unreal. Still a Category 2 raining out. It's dealing with the friction of the land and the terrain, but I do think rain's going to be a problem as this just slowly moves northbound. Through Thursday early morning, it is still a tropical entity, and it is still raining out. So I wouldn't be surprised to see some heavier totals here through Friday. It did a lot of damage. We're getting video in of tremendous damage to buildings in that area, and I think flash flooding and the potential of mudslides will be the next big risk with this. We now have 70% chance of development with our system moving to the west off the coast of Central America. And then we also have Hurricane Tammy. Look at this thing, though. It definitely is a hurricane there, but it seems like it's a little something else going on because it's just so widespread. This whole system has a little mid-latitude look to it at times. Category 2 hurricane, but you see that eye right there, and you can see the symmetry around it for you. It is going to make its way towards Bermuda and kind of meander around, and then eventually just gets absorbed by other systems. So you can see all the models kind of taking it there, and then they just kind of don't know what to do with themselves. It just lingers in this area and then goes away. So you can see the storm right here on our models, goes over towards Bermuda, and then there's nothing really to push it or pull it. So it just hangs out in this area, kind of moving around, not sure what to do, and then you can see some more energy is going to absorb it, and it will be gone. Jordan.
All right. Well, I'm going to tell everybody what's coming up in just